Hey, it's Shay, and welcome back to my channel. So I decided to make a bookmark for every physical book that I have read so that when it is on my shelf, I can physically see which books I have read because it will have a bookmark in it, and I thought this was a super cute idea. I used to have a TBR shelf, which used to be on the top, but I actually rearranged my entire bookshelf recently, so I don't have like a designated area for books that I haven't read yet. So I thought this would be a really cute way to showcase that, and also just a fun craft to do because I love doing little crafts and stuff. The book that inspired me to do it is Caraval. If you know me, I have been obsessing over this book ever since I read it. It is a fantasy romance enemies to lovers book. I feel like this book is either you love it or you hate it, depending on if you've read, I forgot what other book it is, but there's a book that this book gets compared to a lot that is apparently 10 times better that maybe I'll actually get to reading and see if my opinion changes on this book. But I wanted to kind of make like a matching bookmark for it, and I thought it would be cute to make one for every single book I've read. So anytime I'm done with a book, I make a cute little bookmark for it. And then anytime that somebody wants to borrow a book from me or I lend a book out, they get to have like their own custom bookmark that matches the book, and it has like my star rating on it and etc. I'll get into that in a second. So the way I did the bookmarks was I tried to do the front of it sort of similar to the cover or however the book made me feel, and then in the back I have my star rating. I have a quote from the book, and sometimes I'll have like a little comment about it if I had something to say. And since Caraval inspired me to make all these bookmarks, I'm going to show you this one first. So this is my Caraval bookmark. When I was doing this, I would take my books off the shelf and use that as a reference. But for this book, I used a picture online, and the back looks more blue, but now that I'm looking at the book, this is black. But anyway, so it is like a navy blue. I have the cover spiral on it with the words and the little red designs, and then I have this little maroon tassel. And then you flip it over. And I wrote, could not put down enemies to lovers. And then I put, remember, it's only a game, which is kind of told to the main character throughout this entire thing. And then I put 5 stars on the side because, like I said, obsessed with this book. The next bookmark we have is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Some of these bookmarks are going to be extremely basic, and I'm telling you that right now. This is one of them. Obviously, this is like a self-help book, which it's supposed to be really inspiring, but the imagery for this book is obviously not very inspiring. But I did want to make bookmarks for these ones as well. So I just have the name of the book and the author. It basically, you know, the book is basically just a picture of him. So I didn't think I had to be too fancy with it. Then on the back, it says, train your mind for peace and purpose every day, which is a slogan of Jay Shetty, and then I put 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. Next we have The Couple Next Door. And I love the colors of this one. This one's also more of a basic design. Then on the back, I wrote fast-paced thriller. It all started at a dinner party, and I gave this book 3 stars. This is actually the book that got me back into reading, and I did really enjoy this book, but I do think it is very predictable. So I would recommend this for someone who is just starting out. The next bookmark is Sometimes I Lie. Another basic one. I'm probably going to do more of the basic ones first, and then we'll ease our way into the cutesy bookmarks. But this is what it looks like. And then I wrote good read but not memorable. I wrote sometimes I think it's best, oh wait, I'm sorry, this is a quote from the book. Sometimes I think it's best to say nothing at all. Silence cannot be misquoted. And I gave the book 3 stars. Like I said, I feel like I always forget that I read this book, and I look at it on my shelf and I'm like, have I read that? And I don't think that's a great sign. I did give it a 3 stars just because I do remember when I was reading it that I did enjoy it, but it's one of those books that you are not gonna be thinking about later on. Next bookmark is I have Matthew Perry's memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. Also very basic, but I thought it was kind of cute with like the lettering and then the side. And then on the back, I wrote a very honest memoir with a heart. I rated it 5 stars. And a quote that I put is, if you're going to blame your parents for the bad stuff, you also have to give them credit for the good stuff. And I felt like this memoir was, like I said, very honest. And I don't think that it paints Matthew Perry in a good light. I feel like most memoirs, the people try to make themselves still look good, and he really just lays it all out there to let people decide what they think. But I really like this book because I really enjoy understanding why the way people are. I love understanding why people are the way they are, and I definitely recommend this book to other people. Rest in peace. We have On the Run, A Mafia Childhood. This is a bookmark for it. And on the back I put Son and Daughter of Wise Guy Henry Hill, and I gave this book 4 stars. I did really enjoy this book. It is a true story from Greg and Gina Hill. At some points the story would obviously get kind of slow because it's not a fabricated story that has, you know, a rising action, a climax, or this and that. There's no like crazy resolution. This is actually somebody's life. So if you're not into that, I wouldn't recommend this book, but I did really like getting insight into these kids' minds and just seeing how they grew up. The Silent Patient, very controversial book right here. I wrote amazing twist, one of my favorite thrillers with a little heart. And then the quote I put was, remember, love does not include and the quote I put says, remember, love that does not include honesty doesn't deserve to be called love. And I put 5 stars on it. Oh, The Silent Patient. So when I was getting back into reading, I told myself that I needed to finish all of the books that I already owned before I bought this book, because I saw this book circulating everywhere and I was like, I need to read this book. But I was like, I need to prove to myself before I buy any more books that I actually am a reader. And I read like the 5 books that I owned that I fucking bought over the past couple years and just was sitting in my closet, and I proved to myself that I could, and this was like my first gift to myself for actually getting back into reading. And I love this book. I know the twist is a little controversial at the end if people liked it or not, but I would recommend this book to anybody. Next we have The Silent Bride. I really did not know what to draw for this cover, so I just kind of freestyled some like little bells and like little squiggles, and I think it turned out pretty good. And then, well, let me give you a close up. And then on the back I wrote, great premise but could not connect with characters, the story was boring, slow, and the twist was meh. And then I gave it 2 stars. Just like I said on the back of this book, I did not care for this book. I only gave it 2 stars because the premise was interesting and I felt like the twist, they kind of thought about it, but at the end of the day, I would not recommend this book to anybody. Next bookmark we have is The Girl on the Train. We got some color going on here. And then on the back I wrote, oops. The quote I took from the book was, I have never understood how people can disregard the damage they do by following their hearts. And I gave it 3 stars. I feel like it was a good book, but maybe not as memorable as other books, but it was a really fun read. It just wasn't anything extraordinary in my opinion. Next one is The Housemaid. I just drew the little keyhole, that's the iconic cover on it. I don't have The Housemaid actually because I lent it to my mother, so I'll insert a photo of the cover right here and you can kind of see. And then on the back, I wrote classic, simple thriller. The quote I put is, I have just made a dangerous enemy. And I rated the book 4 stars. I did really like this book. The book gets a lot of critique for having very juvenile writing and maybe like not being the most crazy thriller, but I think it's just simple, and sometimes simple is good. And of course we have The Housemaid's Secret, which I did the little keyhole again. And then on the back, the quote I put 2 quotes. I put, I always help, I can never ever walk away when I should. And then the other quote is, who you are is not something you did as a teenager. And I gave it 3 stars. This book, I didn't like it as much as the first book. I do like how it wasn't the exact same as the first book, but it just, to me, wasn't as interesting as the first book. That's why I gave it 3 stars instead of a 4. We have the rock, paper, scissors one. I think this one is super cute with the little trees and the little snow. And then for this one, I wrote, obsessed with this twist, exclamation mark. And then the quote I wrote for it is, The reason why a person lies is almost always more interesting than the lie itself. And I gave it 5 stars, of course. This book, I am obsessed with this book. Obsessed with this book. I thought the twist was so good. The whole book, I was trying to figure out what went wrong in this relationship, what is going on, and the twist, I just did not expect it. Basically the premise of this book is that a couple goes on a vacation to try to save their marriage, and some things are unfolding and it's not what you think it is. I'm not gonna get too much into it because I'll probably do a whole video about this book, but yeah, highly recommend this book. 5-star read for me. And yeah, I think this bookmark is super cute. We have the Atomic Habits. Can you see it? Atomic Habits by James Clear. Simple but cute. And then on the back I wrote tiny changes, remarkable results. And I gave this book a 5 stars. I love Atomic Habits. Everyone loves Atomic Habits. If you haven't read this book, pick this book up. We have hidden pictures. This might look a little bit busy, but the whole story is about this little boy named Teddy who like draws doodles. So these are like all his doodles, and then it's like, then I have the title. So it kind of looks like one of his drawings. If you know, you know. And then for this one, I wrote such a great twist, exclamation mark. And the quote I wrote from the book, I see her every night, Teddy says. She sleeps under my bed so I can hear her sing. And I gave this book a 5 stars. I love this book. I'm obsessed with it. And I heard this book was really good from the internet, and they did not prove me wrong with that. And even Stephen King wrote a little review. One of a kind thriller, I loved it. The king has spoken. We have the one, which I basically just copied the cover exactly on this one. And then on the back, I wrote, this is a quote from the book. I wrote, if you've got the opportunity to love someone as much as they love you, then grab it with both hands and hold on to it for dear life. That's what love really was, being there when the sun rises and sun sets. And I gave this book a 4 stars. I did really like this book. I would recommend it. There is many different POVs in this book, which was really interesting, and you're never bored because you're always wondering what's going on with the other person. And yeah, 4 stars. Next we have Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I kind of just also made it similar to the cover, but we're getting into the bookmarks where I added a little bit more than the previous ones. I absolutely love the covers of dark romance books. That's why I have kind of like my dark romances on display along with Carval, because I feel like they all match a certain vibe and they're so pretty. I'll give you a little tour of my bookshelf when I'm done, but yeah. And then on the back, I wrote one quote, run, if I catch you, I F you, Zaid. If you know, you know. Like, this is a smut book, possibly one of the darkest romances on Book Talk. And then I wrote, kept me engaged, ... I gave this book a 4 stars. I thought it was interesting. This book is criticized a lot. I didn't think it was anything insane, but like for what it was, I thought it was a good book. And this is it. Next we have Hunting Adeline, and this is basically the same exact bookmark, except instead of haunted, it says hunting. And this one is like, has burn marks and tears in it because it's a little bit more of a darker story and a lot more going on. And Zaid is basically says he's going to burn the whole world down if he doesn't find Adeline. So that's kind of a representation of that. Then on the back, the quote I wrote was, without you, I shatter, but with you, I'm indestructible. And then I wrote, this was harder to get through, ... And I rated this one 3 stars. I did not enjoy the third book. I did not enjoy the second installment of this book. I could barely get through this book, if we're being honest. I only gave it a 3 stars because I was familiar with the characters, so I obviously wanted to know what happened to them, but this book just was a no for me. And then anytime they, you know, had sex, I was just kind of bored. and it wasn't as exciting as the first book. So with that, 3 stars. You know, I actually have a really funny story about Haunting Adeline, that I was at my job, and usually I'll keep the book I'm reading like on my desk just in case I get slow at work and I want to pick up the book. And I'm very antisocial at my job, so I'm like, I don't really have people coming to my desk or anything like that. And then this one guy came up to my desk that I think I met like 2 days prior, and he was like, oh hey, like how are you doing? Like just kind of being friendly because he was talking to the person who sits in the desk next to me, so he just kind of wanted to make convo. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm good. He comes up to my desk and he sees this book. He's like, oh, what is that book about? And then he starts to pick it up, and I am on the inside like alert, alert, alert. He's grabbing your dirty book off of the counter. And I was like, oh, it's like crazy. It's about like sex trafficking and like this and that and all this crazy stuff. And he was like, and then he immediately put the book down. He was like, oh, really? Okay. And walked away. And I was like, oh my god, thank god he didn't read the back of this book, because I would have looked like a fucking creep. Next bookmark, we have Misery by Stephen King. I'm obsessed with this bookmark just because I think I'm just obsessed with Misery and the color scheme and everything about it. Look how freaking cute it is. And then some quotes I wrote on it is Dirty Birdie, if you know, you know. And then I am your #1 fan. And then in red I wrote, I felt Paul's pain through King's words. And I rated it a 5 stars. This is the first Stephen King book I've read, and at first I didn't know how I felt about it, and then I really understand why people love King's writing so much, because he really takes you to where he wants to take you with the book. And the reason that I wrote I felt Paul's pain on the back of this bookmark was because I really fucking felt Paul's pain, and also because I saw the movie Misery, and I feel like Paul's pain wasn't really showcased as well in the movie as it was in the book, which I feel is the main part. But yes, I recommend this book highly, 5 stars. This one is super cute. Behind the net, I made like a little hockey net or goal. And then on the back of it, I wrote such a basic story, ... And the quote I took was, I have feelings for you, Songbird. I hated the nickname Songbird, first of all, in this book. I know that I'm just like talking about these books and I'm not explaining anything about it. So like, if you read the books, you know what I mean. If you haven't, I'm so sorry. I'm going to probably do a book on every book I've read eventually on my other series, Sips and Synopsis, if you want to tune into that. But yeah, I give this book a 2 stars. I read this book in a book club, and it was fun reading it with other people, but I just don't think it was my cup of tea. You know, I did enjoy the book while I was reading it. I did want to know like what was going to happen next at some points, but it was just so basic, and like the hot jock and nerdy girl trope, and like they loved each other since high school but never told one another. Like it just didn't work as well as other books that have done this trope have worked for me. So that's why I gave it a 2-star rating. I am obsessed with this bookmark. This is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. How freaking cute is that? And then on the back, I wrote, was a 5-star read until the crazy twist at the end. And then a quote I took from it was, the lake is darker than a coffin with the lid shut. And I rated it 3 stars. And yeah, exactly. This book was a 5-star read for me until the twist at the end. If you want to know about this book more, I did a video on it on my other series, Sips and Synopsis. Check it out. This book is a whirlwind. I definitely recommend this book though to other people because of the crazy twist. But I really did enjoy the pacing of this book, so highly recommend. But ultimately, 3 stars. And look at the covers. Look how beautiful this cover is. I'm obsessed with this cover. This is also one of my favorite ones that I've done, and it's Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Has a little boom box and the cute little colors and aesthetic, I think is what I like the most about it. And then on the back I wrote, this is one of the quotes from the book, I fell in love with teasing you in the 2nd grade when I first discovered I could turn your cheeks pink. Then I fell in love with you, Wes. And then I have like Liz and Wes, and then I have 5 stars on this baby because I gave this book a 5 stars. I thought this book was awesome. I was skeptical of this book at first when I first started reading it because I think this was my first romance book that I read, but I decided to read it because Haley Pham recommended it, and I love her book content. Even though she doesn't read the same books that I do, I'm more into horror books. I just thought the way she was raving about this book, I need to give it a chance. And when I first started it, I was like, oh man, this like, I'm already not liking it, but after like the first couple pages, I was hooked. 5 stars. Last but not least, we have 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I decided to go for the gold and the blood spatter and little fingerprints. I thought it looked really freaking cool. And then on the back of it, I wrote, my favorite book of 2024, exclamation mark. Cried like a baby at the end, exclamation mark. And then a quote I put is, we never know which lives we influence or when or why. And I gave it 5 stars, of course. Like I said, I think this is my favorite book of 2024, if not my favorite book ever right now. I think I just got really invested in the characters, and like I said, King really takes you and puts you inside of the book, and you really get connected with King's characters, and that's what I love the most about it. So yeah, this is like highly recommend, but it's so long, so I wouldn't recommend to someone who's just first starting. So before I put my bookmarks inside of my books on the shelf, I wanted to give you a little book tour of my shelf. All right, so starting at the top, we have a fake plant and my old license plates, my old Tampa Bay Lightning license plate because I love them. And then the top shelf, I'm not gonna lie, these are books I didn't know where to put. I would say this top shelf is eventually going to be like my romance and fantasy sci-fi shelf. So these are the books I have here for now. This is also a bookmark tour, and this is a bookmark that my friend Tabby made me, who crochets, and I'm obsessed with this bookmark, even though my cats try to rip it out of my book sometimes. Then I have this bookmark from Mojo Books and Records, which this is like my go-to bookmark. I've had this one for years. Well, it used to be my go-to bookmark. Then moving on from that shelf to the next shelf, I decided to make this shelf because after reading Carvel, I was obsessed with it, and I'm obsessed with this cover. So I got the whole box set, as you can see, and I wanted to display it, and that is why I redid all of my shelves. And I decided that my dark romance books looked really freaking good with Carvel, and they just have such pretty covers that they were gonna get their own shelf, and I thought it was really cute. I haven't read To Bleed a Crystal Bloom yet, but one of my old friends from high school recommended it to me, and I put like little matching crystals next to it, and I thought that was really cute and clever. Even though I don't really care for Haunting and Hunting Adeline that much, like I said, I think the covers are really pretty, so the shelf is just giving vibes and aesthetics. This is a bookmark that I made myself. I do have like a little time lapse on it up on my channel right now, and then this is kind of like an inverted side of it. And I thought it was really cute. I'm kind of obsessed with cherries, if you don't know. So then the next shelf is my thriller shelf, I guess you could say. I am just realizing that I did not make a bookmark for An Anonymous Girl, and I have read this book. So we're just gonna pretend like I did not forget about that and move on completely. But yes, this is my thriller shelf. I have the Pretty Little Liars book series. Pretty Little Liars is my favorite comfort TV show, and I have not read the books. I really want to read them eventually, but I'm just waiting for the right time, I guess. But this is another one of my bookmarks. I got this at some kind of like market. They were selling a bunch of stuff, and they said if I spent like $2 more, I got a free crystal. So I just decided to get this $100 bill, and I didn't know what to do with it. And recently I was like, oh my gosh, I can use this as a bookmark. So this is actually like my go-to bookmark recently because it's so pretty. Then my last shelf is my hardcover books. It's a little bit of randos in here that don't really fit a category, like my Othello Shakespeare play. Like, I don't know where I would put that. And then I have a Stephen King stack right here, which I am predicting that Stephen King is going to be my favorite author, even though I've only read these 2 books. I'm planning on probably reading Billy Summers on my October TBR. And yeah. This is my last bookmark. I got this from my mother-in-law when she went to Seattle, and she thought of me, and I thought it was really cute. And it's holographic. So yeah, this is what my bookshelf is looking like before I put my bookmarks in. And this is my bookcase after I've added in the little bookmarks. I push these ones behind the books just so that they don't cover up the covers of the other ones since these ones are so thin. Editing Shay here. I'm currently reading The Housemaid is Watching, and I completely forgot about this bookmark that my sister made me for my birthday, a very special customized one, and I thought I have to include this. This is a picture of my girl cat Marcy, my little baby, and she wrote Cat Mom, and it is just so freaking cute. So this one is definitely my favorite bookmark, and I cannot believe I almost forgot it. That is the end of my bookmark tour and just showing you a cute fun little craft that I did recently. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you next time.